Mom, look up here. Jim and I are up on the barn. Mom standing out in the front yard of by the house, looking for us, looked up, that look of shock, hand over heart, and then she went right to, get down off of that barn right now. It took 2, maybe 3 seconds to go from totally shocked, traumatized to stern control. That adventure started earlier that very morning. Jim Bevington and I, my kid uncle, spending the summer on the farm with us, we were setting up on top of the platform of our 30-foot high, rickety old wooden windmill, dangling our feet over the edges, surveying our domain. I said, Jim, let's get up on the barn today. He says, Ron, you know, our ladder, that rickety ladder we have, won't even come near the eaves. There's no way to get up there. I've been thinking, Jim, I said back. We climbed down the ladder and we climbed up into the hay loft, full of hay, and also had this one open window on the end of the barn roof. The cow lot was below, and the windmill was out in the middle of the cow lot. And we got up and looked in the window. We had brought up claw hammer. We had brought up 4 1x4 boards, thin little spindly off the scrap pile boards, and a pocket full of nails. And we climbed up into that little window in the hayloft, and we're looking out with it hanging over the edge of the window, and I look up and I says, still quite a ways up, huh, Jim? He says, yeah, but it's not near as far as it is down. And I said, you know, that looks kind of scary. And he said, yeah, what are we going to do? And I says, let's get the pitchfork, and we threw some hay out the window to create a safety net 30 feet below on the cow lot, just in case we had a mishap. That's an example of youthful enthusiasm and ignorance knows no boundary. I got up in the window to start with, and I nailed up the first board. He was hanging on to me, giving me some stability. And that board went up pretty easy. He says, can you reach high enough for this next board? And I says, no, Jim, you're going to have to get up into the window, and I'm going to sit on your shoulders. Okay. So he got up, hanging on to the edge of the window sill, and really hanging on tight, and I climbed up on him carrying the claw hammer and a board, and I nailed that board up. Now it was kind of tough because I'm leaning against the barn and I'm hammering, and of course there's 30-some feet below me of airspace. And I got that board nailed up, and he says, how about the third one? And I mean, it was a stretch, but I managed to get that third board in place. And when I got it up, then I felt pretty good, and he says, what are you going to do now? And I says, Jim, I'm going to stand on your shoulders now. Are you ready? Well, yeah. And then he said, oh, Ron, he says, the cows are coming into the cow lot. And I says, Jim, it's okay. They can't reach us up here. And he said, I didn't mean that. He said, I'm afraid they're going to eat our safety net. Well, then we'd better hurry, hadn't we, Jim? So I stood on his shoulder, and I nailed up that fourth board, standing on his shoulders. Now, that was not easy, and it was a long time ago. I was 10 years old. Jim was 12 years old. This adventure was concocted by the brain trust of 10-year-old and 12-year-old farm kids, just to let you know. Again, I must say, youthful enthusiasm and ignorance knows no boundaries. We didn't know what to be afraid of, so we weren't. Now come the tough part. And I'm standing there on Jim's shoulders, surveying the climb ahead. And inside of my mind, I thought, I'm a rock climber now. Scaling that steep cliff of a mountain. Oh yeah, I don't have a rope, do I? There's that. So I started up that first climbing part, hanging on to these thin little boards that you barely get a grip on. And then as I got up high enough, I could get my first foot edgewise on one of those boards. And I managed to get up, and the eaves, which are steep slope roof, the eaves were coming out, they were right here. I had to reach back, and somehow, I think over the years, just due to the fear, my mind blocked out. How in the heck I got over that protruding eaves, and I got up on top, and Jim followed me up. Brave kids. We straddle walked the ridge of the barn like this all the way to the front because it was too steep to even try and stand on the barn. And we looked down and we looked around and we're surveying our domain and we are proud young kids. And then we heard the front door open and close. We looked down and here come Mom, she's out in the yard looking around. I think she was probably looking to see what mischief her son and kid brother were into. And I yelled out, Mom, up here, we're up on the barn. And as you know, Mom went into her and the sternness. And you boys get down from that roof right now. Oh, Mom, now. So we clambered, straddle walked back to the other end of the barn, and somehow, and I don't even remember that part, because climbing down is a lot harder than climbing up. And as we come back down, got down, hit the ground, Mom come around and saw those boards. I have to say, we were grounded for anything higher than 4 feet off the ground for the rest of that year. And the follow-up on that was until the day our old barn was torn down. A lot of years later, I'd already moved away from Iowa, and I'd been back there for a couple of visits. Those boards were still on that barn because my dad said, there's no way, I'm going to tear them down. And I just think when I look back, that's a symbol that says youthful enthusiasm and ignorance does have a boundary. It's called Mom.
Contestants or evaluators can leave the room with their sheet for notes, which they get to turn in later. And I get to interview Ron. Are you comfortable sitting there, or would you like to come up?
I can come up if you like.
No,
No, not yet.
No, they go out
Okay.
and go out and work for 5 minutes. You take them to the room.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Hussein will take them out, and there is Joe. Thank you. Okay. Turns out I've known this man for about 10 or 11 years.
That's been a
And,
while.
yeah. He goes to the church that I go to in Santa Cruz, Inner Light Ministries. And we ran into each other at one of the Toastmasters contests. And I was digging in my name for who can I invite to give a speech, and I called him and he said yes. And he's a member 20 years of Toastmasters. Right now the active club is in Rio Del Mar. It's called the Aptos Toastmasters at noon on Wednesdays.
Yes.
And another one, which I'm fascinated with, the 831 Storytellers,
Right.
which is in Scotts Valley once a month.
Yeah, it's twice a month. I go once a month. Yeah, it's
Okay.
first and third Tuesday, 7 o'clock.
And how has Toastmasters contributed to your life? Oh,
How-
83 years ago.
83 years of life, yes. Toastmasters, I wasn't in Toastmasters all of them, but I've been in the last 20 years. how's it contributed? I can get up in front of people I don't know or even ever seen before and talk. There was a time that you people are fairly fit and strong. You couldn't have got me up here to do what I just did today because the shyness, the I can't do this, all those things were in the mind constantly feeding me to don't show up, don't do this, don't do that. Now, it's rather carefree to get up and talk in front of
Yeah.
people. I love it. I
It's
love
the
it.
yes, I can.
Yes, I
And you are
can.
extremely fit for 83. I mean, you had a sling on the chair. And one of the things he told me when I met years ago is I'm a gym rat. You know, I go to the gym every day. What do you do to keep your vitality as much as it is today, given your history?
Oh, I drink a lot. No, it's working out. I lift weights twice a week, and then I do some walking and other activities just that gets me out and doing things. And I think the thing that probably feeds me the most is my youthful exuberance. Hopefully not with the ignorance. With some of that.
Youthful
Yeah,
exuberance.
yes. And so the inner child has become very happy because it can express itself. And by doing that, I think that keeps my body healthier too. Oh yeah, I did have the heart attack and the mini stroke a while back, but I got over them and I'm back to the gym pumping iron again. So recovery, and being able to handle that is so important.
Yeah, because I learned more about these two major health incidents, which were in the last couple of years on
Yeah.
the way down here. Now, I assume they'll come back in 5 minutes. Somebody is
I'm
bringing
timing
them
it.
back.
Yeah.
You got it,
Do
yeah.
we have 5 or a little,
Two,
how much more?
yeah.
2 more? 2 more I'm gonna have to, and he gave me permission to do this, ask him about another recovery, which was about loss in his life.
Okay,
2 years ago, he
No,
lost his
3.
partner and spouse,
3 years ago, yeah.
who I also knew at the Chels.
Yeah.
What suggestions can you give us about dealing with grief and that kind of recovery?
Okay, yes, it was 3 years ago. On our way to church, the spiritual practitioner class that I spent 4 years going to, we graduated on a Saturday, and then Sunday they had our initiation. She was coming in to help set that up, and she was in a fatal auto accident. Now, 3 years ago, I couldn't say that quite that well because the emotions were heavy. And what works for me is, my favorite word for a lot of years is gratitude. And so when I feel these healing moments come on, I allow them to flow. I allow myself to cry. I allow myself to heal through that pain. And then a recovery technique is to go to prayer of gratitude. And I just thank God for the gift that I call Samatha. That was her name. And when I do that, I just feel a release. It's so helpful. So always stay grateful for what you have. Always stay grateful for that. And what you've lost, it was a gift while you had it. And the heavier the loss, that just says how meaningful it was to you and how fortunate you were to have that. So, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, and especially Ron. Let's see, 30 feet up, 2 boys, carrying lethal and impaling weapons, a claw hammer, pockets full of nails, etc., to achieve, Lord only knows what your actual point was doing that. Ron, you're precariously perched upon First Jim's shoulders, and then you go for the grandstand. Is there any wonder that women live longer than men? Beautifully, Kevin. Wonderfully articulated. Your word choice was fun. You brought us along. You even dressed like you were on the farm with a straw hat. the flannel. So you brought us with you in a charming tale of your childhood that, again, lets us all look back to the silly things my brother did. I'm sure everybody was touched by that, completely touched by that, and brought there. If there's anything that I would do differently, it would be a little bit more of gesticulating. Because I would have liked to have seen you use a chair.
Oh,
You
okay.
could have done that. You could have gone, okay, first I'm doing this, and then I'm up here, you know, I mean, and you can make more faces. Not everybody makes the faces I do as Arnie. Put on Facebook of me doing all my silliness. But you could have used the stage and walked around and drawn us in more that way, rather than just standing there, which was still fine, certainly wonderfully told speech. And you kept referring back to the boys, the ignorance of youth. And that's something that we can all, again, get to in a special place. Humor is to be human, and there's nothing really funny about an old person taking a fall, but you add a banana peel, and it's hysterical. And that's what you did. That's what you did. So, and unfortunately, nobody got hurt, and at the end, we all understood who the boss of our worlds are. Mom.
Got it.
Thank you, Ron. It was beautiful.
And you'll escort Annette, our second.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters and guests, especially Ron. I truly enjoyed your story, Ron, about being on the barn. And I thought that you did such a wonderful job setting the stage for us. I could see the barn. I could see the cows and the windmill, and I could see your mom with her hand on her heart and on her hips. So great job with your descriptions. What I would suggest is you have the body language and the vocal variety, but you can expand on them. There was a point when you were saying 30 feet high, and you did it right here. But that's 30 feet high. And when you were using your voice very well, I might add, I thought there were times when you could pause more, just to let everything sink in for us. Other than that, I thought it was a superb speech, and I really look forward to hearing more speeches from you. I hope you come back and give us some more speeches. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations and thank you.
Good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters, welcome guests, and especially Ron. I really was entertained by your speech, and it helped me to reminisce about my own childhood and my own mother, and some of the looks that I got. I really appreciated your use of gestures, which is something that I think a lot of people need to work on, especially myself. We don't know what to do with our hands, for sure. And you did really, the hammering of the nails and the placing of the boards. And I really appreciated that. I saw a lot of good use of that. I liked how you tied the introduction into the conclusion, where you came full circle. It reminded us that the youthful enthusiasm and ignorance knows no bounds. You tied that theme in throughout, and it was a good repetition to really sink it into me. And then I liked a lot of your vivid words: a rickety old wooden windmill, and brain trusts from a 12-year-old and a 10-year-old. I think we can get some good images from that. One suggestion I do have for you to consider, I noticed some Iowanian vernacular, perhaps, which was very fitting for this speech. I would just encourage you to check, run it by, a sounding board to make sure that your grammar is eloquent, perhaps, and if that time comes. Again, it was very relatable for me and very entertaining. And thank you for sharing. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark.